Hey y'all, it's Stephen Van Kampen-Lewis on April 24th, and as you can see, I'm still at my apartment, and I've got some of my orchids here. In fact, I only have the Catasetums here, and that's the update that I actually want to do today. I feel like in the past when I've done these sort of Catasetum collection updates in spring, it's been sort of one and done to show, one snippet of that spring growing season. So I think this year what I'm going to do, and what I'm actually doing now, is going to do some recurring videos where so maybe we can sort of follow along the spring growth cycle, and it is a little bit late in the cycle to decide to do that, but I think the plants are in a pretty good spot right now, where there's some that could possibly get some water and some that definitely don't need it. So it's sort of a good show and tell time for the Catasetums, at least at this time of the year. And I've got them growing down here on the ground, and so I'll give you a quick clip of how I'm growing them there, and then we'll sort of peel back the shade cloth and take sort of a deeper look into the different stages that are happening right now in terms of new growth, new roots, bloom spikes, and all that good stuff that often happens here in the spring with Catasetums and their allies. So I'm going to show you these guys right now under the shade cloth, and then I will sort of, like I said, peel the shade cloth back and take a deeper look. So as you can see, it is a very ordinary standard apartment complex here in Central Texas, and these are the Catasetums and their allies that I have left after I've sold a bunch and sent out a bunch, and even just thrown away some back bulbs that may or may not be useful. But that's essentially the collection that's left at this point. And this does face south, so this gets really bright sunshine, and a few of them are actually getting fried. So west is that way. So that's where the shade kicks in first, and so I actually moved these guys down there so they wouldn't get cooked anymore. But I'm going to put these guys up on a chair so that it's easier to see them, and I'm going to remove the shade cloth to give you a better look of what's going on. Alright, so this is the whole group. As you can see, we're sitting on a chair, and this is actually just a planter that's maybe a meter long or 3 feet long, and that's most of my collection. I've got a few down there as well, but I think we can cover what we want to look at by looking at these guys. So I'm going to get us a little closer, and rather than moving the camera around, I'll just pick some up. And let's actually start with this one. So in one of my previous videos, I had spoken about this particular plant and how, as the back bulbs tend to shrivel, they often look like, someone with oversized pajamas on, and that's still true for this. But this is a plant that actually I gave some water to last week. It is certainly an overachiever. It's got two very large bulbs, seed pods that are making excellent progress across this with Catasetum Black Knight in October, I think. So I'm looking forward to seedlings of this. It is also putting out a spring spike, and that spring blooming season comes from the Catasetum tenebrosum parent of this one. And then of course it has this brand new growth coming in. So you can see how little energy is left in these bulbs, or I should say how much energy has actually been used. I think I gave a little bit of a drink of water last week, and it has fattened up a little bit, but I think this one has energy for at least a couple more weeks. But you can see the new roots coming in here. I can't see any that are farther down in the pot, although I suspect they're there. I don't see any popping out the bottom, any new green root tips, so I'm going to assume that these roots are still not quite long enough. You can see they stop here. They're kind of getting squished in the bottle, but it looks like there's there's another one down here and some over here. So just from experience, I suspect that there will be some that are probably halfway down the pot. So to me, that's not long enough to start watering permanently, but the fact that so much energy is going into these 3 different things that this plant, it has sort of bitten off a little more than it can chew, I think. So that's why I'm adding water, last week, and maybe I'll do it again next week, and then, reevaluate where I want to be for this one going forward in terms of watering. Here's a troublesome Cycnices that I'm going to repot soon. So this one, as you can see, has these growths with these really great looking roots coming in, but at a really weird spot in the bulb. So, basically I'm going to pull this guy out. Yep, there we go. Just like this. And I'm going to strap it to this one, kind of like this. I'm going to remove the roots and the back bulbs, and then just strap it to this and repot. And these new growths, these new roots will make their way into the new media. In fact, I'll probably cut some notches here and a notch here, so this will sink in a little bit better. And then I'll repot it like that, which is really frustrating to do, but these Cycnices, they're tricky. This is Coopery, in case you're wondering. And they don't really follow the rules for some reason. They're kind of jerks, but they have really nice flowers. So that's why I put up with them. Here's another troublesome one. This is Catasetum Black Knight. I don't see the label in here, but I just know that that's the one. It's kind of frustrating. That means I lost the label somewhere. But you can see how far along this new growth is. Lots of energy in these back bulbs. We've got either a new growth or a spike. That's probably a spike actually coming in right there. And a troublesome growth. So something happened here and this guy kind of got soft, and I don't know why, but it started a new growth right here. So this is a new plant basically starting. So what I'm going to do is I'll cut this off, and I'm going to send a couple of plants to my friend Frank in Louisiana, and I think I'll include this. Oh, there is a tag right here. Catacetum Black Knight. And this is actually the pollen parent of those pods that I have over there. So kind of frustrating, but it is what it is. And yeah, this pot's a little larger than I think I would otherwise like to have it, but it's a really good pot, so I'm going to keep it that way going forward. This one is Catacetum Chuck Taylor. You probably can't see it very well there, but these growths are probably the largest. And this is sort of the stage where you start thinking about watering. After this video, I'm going to peel these old sheaths off and get rid of them. But you can really see, when this thing is fat and happy, this is how plump the bulb will be. So these are tightly bound around them, and so as more energy is withdrawn from these bulbs, they really shrink a lot. But they're adapted for that, and it's not a problem. But you can see we've got a couple of spikes here. I'm really excited to see one. This one is really gorgeous. So having a couple of spikes on this one is exciting. Let's take a look at the roots. So down here you can see some broken roots, and that's certainly not what I want to see. Let's see if I can peel this back and see what's going on here under this bulge. Yeah, it looks like a few more roots are still down there, so they'll hopefully make their way down in the media. But even with these root tips that have been broken off or chewed off, I'm not sure, there's still plenty going into the media. And same with, you know, these other growths over here. There's some nice looking roots, still small. So what I'm going to be looking for to figure out if I want to water is to see roots kind of wrapping down here and getting down into this part of the pot. Ideally, so here's a root tip right here. I don't think that is actually a root tip from the new growth. This looks like a last year's root tip. So a lot of people think that last year's roots always die. They don't. They often branch. I think that's one of these, since it is so small. And what I'm really looking for, so here's another root tip. So I'm not entirely sure of their origin, but the fact that we have all these new root tips, even though they're pretty small, means that, you know, this thing is getting closer and closer to being watered. I bet, you know, these big fat thick root tips that I'm looking for are probably somewhere in the middle here. So this one, despite its shriveling, still has plenty of energy for at least 2 or 3 weeks more. So I will not water for at least 2 or 3 weeks and give it some more room for those roots to really stretch out and elongate. So I'm going to show you one more troublesome one. This is that Cycnices that I made a video about a couple of months ago, Heron Hussainum. This was an import that I grabbed over at Tan Miami in October 2021. And you can see that it's got some good roots heading down into the media there and heading down into there. But this is the game plan that I'll have for the other Cycnices. So the bottom of this rotted off, and so I strapped it to the pot with these zip ties. And then this will grow up to be a normal growth, hopefully. And so far, so good. This should be an absolutely gorgeous bloom that should happen this fall. So I'm really excited to see this one. So I think that's going to be the last of the troublesome ones that I go through. So I've shown you a bunch of mature ones, a few troublesome ones. Let's look at some of these Fred Clark plants that I got, you know, maybe about a year ago. So he released a bunch of plants in June, I think it was, of 2021. So let's take a look at a few of those. So you can see the size of these guys. See, this is the kind of the size of the plant that a lot of you got, you know, last year, and you probably got some of these same ones actually. You got that Mormades here on the left, and then this Cloacia by Catasetum over here on the right. And you can see how far along they are. You know, for the Mormades, you can see that the new root is about that long. So it's doing a good job, but and you can see how large the growth is, but this is nowhere near time to water. Not even close. There's tons and tons of energy left in this back bulb. This growth is not nearly long enough to water. And this root, even though it's probably 2 or 3 inches long, is nowhere near where I want it to be. You know, especially the fact that that's only one root. There's a good chance that that's the longest of them all. This one is a little easier for you to see, and this one is, so the length of these roots is hopefully what's happening in here, and I just can't see it. So this is exactly what you want to see, right? You want to see these roots elongating and getting down to the bottom of the pot. You can see the stage of this growth, the new growth here, compared to the back bulb. This back bulb still has tons and tons of energy in it. This new growth is not particularly large, and these new roots, while they look good, and this might be getting close to that sort of 4-inch minimum. Again, that 4-inch minimum for the new roots is the minimum, not the maximum. So, you know, I'm going to let this go for another 2 or 3 weeks. These roots will end up wrapping around the bottom of this pot, and then I'll start to add water. But ultimately I'm going to keep an eye on this back bulb. If it suddenly shrivels too much, then I'll add water. But that's really key, is letting these new growths get as big as you can, letting these new roots elongate for as long as you can before letting the back bulb shrivel to the point where there's not enough food to really promote growth. So if you let it go too long, your whole plant will die. And I've done that several times before, so try not to do it anymore. Finally, I do want to show one more little guy. This is Catacetum Chunky Eye. I'm not really sure what it's trying to do. It certainly has one new growth here, but it kind of looks like it's trying to put out another new growth over here. You can see this back bulb is super shriveled, looks terrible. I actually added water to it last week, and I'm going to dump a bunch of water on it again this week. This is one that is probably not enough energy in that little bulb to push one growth, much less two new growths. So we'll see if I can salvage it. I'm not super optimistic, but the options are to water it and maybe it'll live, or to let it stay dry and it'll definitely die. So these small little guys can be a little tricky, especially when they just don't want to wake up on time. Anyway, with that, I hope you guys are having a good weekend. Talk to you later.